All rise.
Please be seated. Attorneys are here and the jury are all present and accounted for. Before we get started, members of the jury, a couple of you have expressed concern about the weather. I'm going to get you out of here early afternoon. Mr. Schilke.
Legal ready to continue with Ms. Cochran, sir.
Ms. Cochran, I would remind you that you remain on your oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, before we took a break, I was talking to you about October 28th when the troopers from the Michigan State Police came to talk to you and interviewed you. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
They interviewed Jason as well, correct?
Correct.
And again, you told them the same story about going over to Mrs. House, or apartment I should say, and having the lasagna over there. Remember telling that story?
Correct.
Story ain't true, is it?
No, it's not.
Again, so you lied to the troopers.
Correct.
And why again did you lie to them?
The reason for that is Jason wanted to get all the attention away from our house. He wanted it to fall in that apartment.
So Jason asked or told you to tell them that.
Correct.
And you went along with it.
I did.
Why? You didn't have to. You were alone, I think, in the car with these guys.
I had to go along with it. That was my belief.
Why did you believe that?
Because I believe the rest of it.
I'm sorry?
I believe the rest of it.
What do you mean?
I didn't think I had a choice.
Okay. Now, you told them that Jason had some thoughts about killing you. Do you remember telling them that?
Correct.
And what did you mean by that when you told them that?
When I told the
troopers, yes.
Well, they had asked, I don't know if this was when they had asked about the well-being check. I don't know if that was, I've had a lot of interviews, but I think that was one of them. Said that he didn't threaten me, I told him that, but that he was very depressed, and I may have told him that he was suicidal at that point as well, but that he never had threatened me.
So you gave him a little peek into what's going on here, but you didn't tell him the whole story. Why not?
Because I didn't think I was able to. I didn't think it would make a difference to have me help.
Now around this time, I don't know if it was after the first encounter with law enforcement or if it was this October 28th encounter with law enforcement, you did something with the gun, correct?
Oh, the 22.
I should be more specific, the 22 rifle.
Correct.
Long gun, I guess. What happened with that gun?
Jason had, I don't know all the parts. Like I said, I know guns, just not that well. He had taken the barrel and the magazine off. The butt of the gun, that was the wooden part, he had grinded that down some way. I don't even know what he would have used, but he turned it into sawdust. He put that into a bucket of one of his potting, a bucket full of potting soil, like in between it, that he grew his marijuana in. There might have been one other part, I don't know. Before all the searches, it was hidden in the house. After that, he insisted that it needed to go out of the house. So he had me hold on to the barrel of the gun. He had me tuck it in my shoe and in my pant leg. That was the only part I think that I had in there to walk over to the casting pit.
Okay, and when did that happen, approximately? Is it around this time in October, or is this sometime later down the road?
This would be, I think, November, because it was, I don't remember the date, but it was, I think it was November. Might have been last week of October.
So in the fall still then?
Yeah.
Okay. said after the searches, and the searches didn't come till later, so I don't.
Well, we had two state police. I think that they didn't have a warrant for the house. They had a warrant for the phone, but they asked Jason if Chris was in the house and tied up in duct tapes in the basement. So he had let them come into the house.
I see what you mean by that now. Okay. So now, did you keep part of the gun at the house though as well?
The magazine too was under the stairs.
Okay. How did it get there?
I put it there
Why?
because it was part of the gun that had killed Chris.
And you hid it at the house, correct?
Correct.
What was your motivation for doing that?
Because I didn't think anybody would find the gun in the pit, but I knew if I had a piece of it, it might help later on.
And what do you mean by help later on?
To explain what had happened to Chris.
You know, someone who is more cynical might say that you were hiding that for insurance to help yourself later. Is that what's going through your mind?
No, I mean, if somebody was in the position I was in, there is no real helping me. I mean, to me, I had already seen what had happened and what he had done to Chris. To me, to see that was worse than actually being shot because it would be the end. This is infinite. It's a little bit different.
And in fact, you pointed out the location of that magazine tube during a search at the home. Is that correct?
Correct.
In fact, you pointed out where the barrel was located in Caspian Pit. Not specifically, but you said Caspian Pit, correct?
I actually took them to it. First, Detective Ogden gave me a picture of the scene, of like the Caspian Pit, and I drew on there, and I guess he had sent the picture to Chief Rizzo, and using the picture, they said it was pretty close, but when I was here, I was able to pick within, I think, 10 foot off the shore where it was.
Okay. So within a relative close degree, I mean, obviously you probably couldn't pick specifically where it was in this pit, but you did your best, would that be fair to say?
Correct, yes.
All right, let's talk about, again, I could ask you the same questions over and over about why you lied to law enforcement in the beginning and why you didn't come forward. I think we all know what you're going to say here, so I'm going to move on. You know, let's talk about this burn barrel that you had in your yard. Tell me about this burn barrel.
I really don't know too much about this. When we moved in the house on January 29, 2014, I didn't even know I had a yard. Everything was covered in snow till whenever it melts around here. When it did melt, there was leaves and all kinds of debris in the yard. I had raked it all up and was burning it. I was pretty sure it was in the fire pit. One of the neighbors had come over and had asked me, this is the first time I met him, had asked me to put out the fire and said his wife had just washed the curtains and the windows were open. Up here I figured you were able to burn all the time anywhere. I don't know what the rules are. It's different from different places you go. So I put it out. I don't remember seeing a burn barrel. I've seen pictures. Jason had a couple of fires where he was burning boxes, I think, from our roof, and maybe boards from some of the construction, because it wasn't drywall, but maybe some of the old trim that he was burning. He might have had a barrel of some sort.
When you moved up here, did you bring a kind of a barrel with you, or
No.
maybe you found it here?
If there was a barrel, it was there at the property.
Okay. Now, you said you had a neighbor come over and talk to you about burning something. Did that neighbor testify in court here?
Yeah, that was Gary Warnholm.
Okay. And you heard him say that happened, and you thought that happened in the fall because he had some various things going on in his life that made you think that was during the fall. Did you think that happened in the fall when he confronted you about burning?
No, I know for a fact because the only time I had burned anything was after cleaning up the leaves and stuff. And he might have said something about the smell, because when you burn grass and leaves, it's not a very good smell, but being used to it, I mean, we had 5 acres growing up, so we had a lot of bonfires. You get used to it. But he had I had seen him twice at a fire. The second time was in the fall, but it was at the sailor's house. It might have been around the same time as David's sailor's birthday, which I don't remember the date. We we had a bonfire back there, and he was drunk, but he came over and talked with us for a little bit.
And you heard Mr. Beauchamp talk about some burning that was being done in the summertime here. I don't think he spoke to you there according to his testimony, but to your recollection, would Jason be perhaps burning things in the summertime as well?
Oh, it's possible. I don't think I was there when he had come over, though. I don't even know if I knew about the conversation between them.
No, we talked a little bit about this, but I want to specifically ask you this question. You heard Mr. Cochran testify that on or around October 24th that the Nelos, remember the old Nelos here from AT&T phones, put Jason's phone within a radius approximately a mile from where Chris's skull was found. Do you have any idea why Jason's phone would have been near or at that location at that time?
For certainty, no.
Were you with Jason at that time?
Not that I recall, no.
You and Jason didn't go back to the spot together where Chris's body was, did you?
Us together and me, no.
So,
I can't confirm if he went back.
you don't know what he might have done?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Now we talked a little bit about the Sawzall. They found a Sawzall in your truck when the FBI served the search warrant on that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was a Ryobi cordless.
Told me cordless here. Now we said the Sawzall that Jason used had a power cord on it, correct?
Correct. In a different brand.
Different brand as well.
Right.
So it was not the same Sawzall.
Right.
What happened to the Sawzall that Jason used, if you know?
Jason gave it to David Saylor. He was, him and his girlfriend were remodeling a house on, I don't know what street it was, one of the main streets in Gastra. He gave that to him, a circular saw. I don't know what other item it was. He gave him a few things, so.
Well, do you know if Mr. Saylor kept that Sawzall or what happened with it?
I can't confirm if he kept it or got rid of it, but he didn't give it back.
Now, when he was doing this remodeling, to your knowledge, did they have power in the house?
They did not have power.
So, corded Sawzall is pretty much useless at that time,
Correct.
right? But after that, you don't know what happened. You know, it was brought there, but who knows, right?
Right, well, I know he was, they had across the street was the friend, Matt and Ava, who lived there. They had an RV and a home. I know he was plugging in things there and using some of the corded tools to cut boards and stuff. So I don't know if he would even been able to use anything over there, or if he was.
Now let's talk about let's talk about the search of the home here on March 5th, 2015. I'm just giving you a lot of interviews, but I think you covered pretty consistently. I think you're going to end up saying, well, why you lied, or did not tell the truth right away. So March 5th, you're meeting with Miss Rizzo, is that correct?
Correct.
What were you meeting with her for? What was going on?
I don't remember if she came to the house or if she called. One way or another, I ended up at the station house. She wanted to talk to me. She said she had some evidence for me to look at. When I was there, she showed me, I believe it was a Post-it note with the directions on it. Wanted to know if it was Chris's handwriting. She showed me either one glove or a pair of gloves. Wanted to ask if I had seen Chris wear them or if he would wear those. Maybe a helmet at that point. I don't know for sure. But she was asking basically if any of it was Chris's or if I could identify it relating to Chris.
Okay. Well, later that day, a search was done at your house. Do you remember the circumstances that you served that search warrant?
I had one. Well, yeah, I do remember the circumstances, but when I was at the station house, I guess, I don't know, I'm thinking this is the same day, there was a private investigator that she had me talk to. She asked if I wanted to talk to him.
You say she.
Chief Rizzo.
Thank you.
It was Jim McNeil and Molly Barton.
So you talked to these individuals?
Right. I had also seen them leave the house when I went to the police station. I guess they had confronted Jason there. After that, I headed home. She had the search warrant and served it about anywhere from 11 to 11:25.
Again, she's Ms.
Chief
Rizzo.
Rizzo, yes.
Thank you. All right, and when the search is going on, you know, why don't you say, come, that, hey, you could find this magazine to tell, why don't you open up at that point?
It again goes back to the same reasons, but also at this time Jason was there, and I figured with the search they would actually see what had happened, or I'd hoped more would come of it.
You kind of hoping they perhaps find a magazine too?
I was hoping they would have found more of it.
Now, not long after, I think the next day, you up and left Michigan and moved to Indiana. Why?
They were done with the search the day before, March 5th. They were done about 10 o'clock. Jason was very upset about the situation. He was anxious. I don't know if he felt like he was getting close to the end of being caught. I have no clue. He said we needed to leave. The house had been went through, we'll say, which that's part of the search. It was the first time I'd ever had anything in my search like that. We ended up calling either my mom or my dad to see if we could stay somewhere because Jason was not going to stay there anymore. So on the 6th, I had clothes, pictures, and important paperwork, and to the course of dogs. I went back to Indiana to stay.
Well, prior to then, had you had any thoughts of leaving the area or anything like that, or?
No. I was planning right before it, I'd been looking for a job because after I was fired from Oldenburg, I'd been looking all over town for work and was not having any luck. Was having a little, I guess, an issue finding work, whatever the reasons may be, and didn't have any luck. In Nashville, Kentucky, I had gotten a pretty good job offer and was searching for homes in the area. I was going to take a job down there and did not, so chose to go to Indiana, close to family.
Did you say Nashville, Kentucky? Or?
Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, just want to clarify. Okay. So you maybe made some inquiries into housing and things of that nature in the Nashville area, like the first say?
Yeah, Nashville, there's 4 different cities around that area, but in Nashville was the focal point.
Were you giving away or selling a lot of your stuff as well up here? Or?
A lot of the stuff I didn't use anymore, yeah.
Okay. So that was, just the things you didn't use and want to get rid of them type thing, or?
Miscellaneous stuff that I've collected over the years that just didn't need.
Now, we heard from Mr. Lewis Saylor that you were doing some renovations in the middle of the night at the home. First of all, why don't you tell me about the condition of this home when you first moved in? What was it like?
Very old. I mean, even now, there's still a lot of stuff that would have needed to be done, but when I first moved in, going from the kitchen to the upstairs, you would literally hit your head going up the stairs. You couldn't fit an actual, you might have been able to put a twin-size mattress through there. I don't even know if you could do that. So I cut out the ceiling, cut out some of the supports, re-supported it, put another beam in. I mean, did a lot of work there. The steps needed to be refinished. I did those, refinished the cabinets.
So there's something about a fire in the attic at one point?
I don't know what happened before we moved in there, but the house has a new roof. It had new wood upstairs in the attic, new supports. They might have put new drywall. I don't know how it looked before, but they had, I think it was new carpet, new paint. The only thing I really had to do upstairs was I put in a walk-in closet instead of having a tiny closet there,
So,
or bedroom, whatever.
what was up with doing the work in the middle of the night?
I did it at all times during the day. With the sander alone, I spent maybe 100 hours sanding.
And would that be before and after? Even before Mr. Regan was shot at home, they would be working?
Right. Most of it was done before.
And again, if you heard anything after that event that night? Was that just you doing routine, fixing up the home, or is that something else?
I don't think there was any construction after that. To me, I was done with the house.
So if he said that it was after, perhaps he was mistaken, or?
He might have the dates wrong, but any remodeling or construction they did was beforehand.
Now, we talked a little bit with Lisa Ordovez, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, that there's a photo of a door. Remember that photo, the door of the house, there's a hole in it?
Yes.
Remember that? On one side, I think there's a cork board or something like that?
Correct.
What was up with that door? What happened with it?
When we moved in, even when Jeff had taken me to the house, Jeff from Uberlin Realty, I think we would come in the front door. There was duct tape on the door when I first went in. I mean, I grew up where a lot of stuff was fixed with duct tape. I mean, I seen a lot of duct tape growing up. So, you know, when I seen it, I didn't think anything of it. The front door was secure. This was like the door between the mudroom and the dining room area. On the other side was somebody, I think they glued the cork board. I never checked. If anything, I would have changed the door if I was going to do anything. But from what I understand, somebody had broke into the house before. I guess just hearing rumors from the sailor.
So again, long and short of it, that hole in the door had nothing to do with you or this incident or Jason or anything like that.
Correct.
Now, you probably alluded to it a little bit here, but they found some paint cans, some plastic wrap, and things around that at the home. Was that just for routine renovations, or?
The paint cans were all left over from painting in different rooms. I think there might have been 4 different colors, along with spray paint that I used for some of the metal. The plastic was actually rolls of 3 foot by 100 foot of greenhouse fabric material that I was getting rid of because I wasn't going to make a greenhouse and had no use for it.
Sure. Now, there's also something with the tiles, some stains on the tiles. I think they tested them. I don't think they came back as anything, if I remember correctly, but do you have any idea what those stains were?
When they did the search, when we had come back, it was like I said, it was 10 o'clock that night. The first thing I noticed was I think the door. They'd taken the door off, the tiles, carpet. There was a lot of things I had no clue that, you know, I had no reason to believe that it was for anything. So I was, I guess, confused. I didn't know what had happened. But from what I heard from a couple people, the gentleman that might have lived there before had some issues in the house. I guess he did some illegal activities, so who knows?
No idea where the stains came from?
No.
No idea what they were?
No, they said there was nothing, there was no blood or anything, so maybe just dirt or something that they had.
So we're moving along here. Let's talk about, it's about a week ago this time that I had Ms. Rizzo read that, what I call Jason's book. Remember her reading that to us?
The outline.
That outline, yes. Well, what was that?
That was the outline in his book. When they did the search, I thought they recovered both. They recovered just the outline, which is what she had read up here. Those were just outlines of this book that he's been working on a long time. It's little excerpts or little, like I said, outlines or notes of different situations he's had, just different things that have happened.
I think that's autobiographical, or is it fantasy?
I would say it was an autobiography written by him.
Now, you said, I think that there was a full book somewhere out there. You certainly haven't seen that yet.
No.
Any idea where that is?
It was in the basement.
Any idea where it went?
No.
So, have you read the entire book?
Not the entire book, but enough of it.
Now, you saw the outline. That's what we have in front of us, and you can find my questions to that. I mean, what were you thinking when you read that outline, or saw that outline?
It made more sense from a lot of the stuff I've seen and heard over the years.
When did you first see this outline, if you recall?
For the outline,
Yeah.
maybe a year ago.
Okay. So, but now, so about almost time ago, or?
No, it would have been maybe 14 months, give or take. But I had seen the book well before I'd seen the outline.
I see. And the outline, you said they helped things make more sense. What do you mean by that?
Just actually see more butterflies than anything.
Again, that's something that you see in school or read books or things of that nature.
Correct.
And I think you also had a discussion about your belief in a higher power. Remember Chief Rizzo asking about that?
Yes.
And I don't remember exactly what your comments were, but you remember what you said.
I do.
And what did you tell her?
I told her, there was 2 occasions. One was with her, one was with Detective Ogden. Basically both were pretty much the same. I've read the Bible inside and out over 100 times, if not more. The things I've seen over the years, once you've seen a certain hell or a lot of horrible things, you kind of find it hard to believe in anything better than, what you've seen and what you've dealt with. And a lot of the messages in the Bible, it's hard to see the good when you've seen only bad for so long.
And how come you're seeing all this bad? Who's showing you all this bad?
Jason did over the years. But as far as, like religion and stuff like that, I was baptized as a baby. I went through confirmation as a teenager. I went through counseling with my pastor before I got married. I went to church when I was able to, and I do Bible studies.
Now, you had at some point, I think we had Mr. Beauchamp talk about it, I think you used the word cast. Did you have a cast on your arm at any point?
I had, I don't know what it's called. It's just like a bracing system set up. And it was my right shoulder.
When I heard about it, I used the word sling, basically. Is that what it would be kind of?
Yeah.
What happened with that? How come you had that sling on?
I had a sling and I had a brace. There was 2 occasions. I eventually had surgery to fix the tendon in my arm and fix some of the bone spurs in my arm. Before that, I had the sling due to having the pain when I moved my arm around. That was for one of the fights that me and Jason had. He had tore on my arm pretty good. We had a decent fight, so I ended up hurting the shoulder at that point.
When was that fight?
This was late summer.
Now, I believe you told Human Resources Women at Work, I believe you told Chief Rizzo, and I told others that you were hurt in some kind of car accident. Do you remember telling that story?
Yes.
Is that true?
No, it's not true.
You were in a car accident in the fall of 2014 or summer of 2014. And you said you were with some friend, perhaps coming back from Wisconsin, if I remember correctly.
That was the story I made up.
And you lied.
Yeah.
Why? Why lie? Why not tell the truth?
To tell the truth would to expose what was actually going on. I guess I was more ashamed and embarrassed, scared.
Now, let me skip ahead now to about July 2015. And Mr. Rizzo come to Indiana, you meet with officers down there, and they're coming to collect your DNA. Again, not to belabor this point, but why don't you see this as the perfect opportunity to say, hey, I've been dealing with some messed up stuff here. Help me. Why not? At that point.
I wish I would have. I don't think it would have made a difference. There was a couple of reasons. So, one, it was, goes back to, I didn't think it would help. I didn't think anything good could have happened. Figured something bad would happen to me at this point, or somebody I loved, since we were staying with my family. Another reason would be, at that point, I was just going with the motions. I was using a lot of drugs. I was working a lot, but I was struggling to even continue on day to day.
No, I want to talk about now after Jason's death. It's fair to say that he didn't come clean prior to his death for all reasons that we spoke of here.
Correct.
He dies. How come they're not shouting from the rooftops, calling people up, talking to Detective Otter, trying to call Chief Rizzo and saying, I don't need to protect him anymore. Here's what happened. How come you're not doing that?
The first time I was contacted by police was, I think, like you said, was the 29th. I think it was actually before that, but it was after his death. I had just lost my husband, and even though he'd done a lot of horrible things, that was still 13 years of marriage, and there were some good times in there. Dealing with that, as far as coming forward, to me, it felt like he was still here. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but I still felt like he was here, and that felt very difficult to even talk about.
You eventually did come clean. I think that was at the end of March, so you had about a month, 5-6 weeks. Why did it take that long? Why not, you had meetings, I think, almost weekly with Detective Otter. Why did it take, let's call it a month, for you to come clean?
I don't know. I guess that was the time that I finally felt that, he couldn't do anything.
Now, Detective Ogden, I think the day prior to that, had tried to play a little trick on you around that time with those car rings. You heard him tell you about those car rings?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Ever see those car rings?
No.
Ever hear of those car rings?
In court yesterday.
It's the first you've ever heard of it.
Correct.
So the fact that he did that on the 28th and then come clean on the 29th of March, it's a little convenient. Is that just as...
I think it's just a coincidence, but I will say that that's kind of sick, being that I just lost my husband and was grieving and going through a lot of things and pretty depressed. It's a little twisted.
Now, you said that you drove by his house as well. Were you trying to, is that your intention to drive by his house on the way to the park, or?
My understanding is that he lives in Hobart. My folks live in Hobart. I went to a park in Hobart almost every day to just sit and ponder.
Anything significant on that spot other than that's a spot you just liked for whatever reason? Is there any special significance to that spot? I don't know what it would be, but is it just a spot you liked?
Yeah, it's a significant spot.
Okay, well, why is it significant, that spot?
That's where we put my husband's ashes in the lake.
I see. Well, after coming clean and telling Detective Ogden about what happened, you came up to Michigan.
Correct.
Tell us about that trip.
The 29th and 30th.
Yes.
I had been pretty depressed. I guess I called him on the 29th. I had taken a lot of pills on the 29th that evening. It was at the Veterans Park like he talked about. I don't remember him coming there, which makes sense because he said I was passed out in my truck.
Now, what's a lot of pills?
I don't know the exact number. Enough to do harm, I guess.
And what were you taking?
Xanax, sedatives.
Were you using any other illicit substances at that time?
That day, no, maybe marijuana.
So continue, please. What was...
He said we had talked, I don't recall any of that. He said I met him at the Lake Park restaurant. I don't remember going to the Lake Park restaurant. I do remember an ambulance. I don't remember where it was or what was even done. But I hearing him yesterday was to check on me and make sure I was okay. He said we went to the police station where I had slept. I don't recall that. I remember him taking my cigarette pack. I had marijuana in it and some cigarettes in it. I do remember that. I remember waking up in the truck, in the police pickup truck on the way with Ogden and Sykes to here up to Michigan. And then we got here, it's early in the morning on the 30th.
Okay. What kind of mood were you in when you first got here?
I was irritated. I was, talking to you, I felt like I was kidnapped. I mean, I'm not saying I was. I'm not saying I didn't say, okay, please take me up there. I have no clue what I had said. Like I said, I don't remember any conversation up till when we had gotten up here. But, I mean, last thing I had remembered was being at Veterans Park taking a bunch of pills, so.
Do you remember the trip up here at all?
No, I don't. I'm just being up here.
So you get here and you talk to Miss Frizzle. You weren't very nice with her, fair to say.
No, I was irritable.
In fact, I think you're kind of, fair to say, you're pretty irritable with her throughout this entire investigation.
Yes.
Why is that?
A lot of it, Jason had said it was a conspiracy, which I knew it wasn't a conspiracy. Just because, just hearing the story over and over and over. They're out to get him, and everybody's trying to set him up.
Well, one of the first things you asked for was immunity. Do you remember asking for immunity?
After I seen it, yeah, I do remember.
Any idea, do you have recollection why you had done that? I mean, what was going through your mind when you asked that?
I think I was more just frustrated about the situation than anything.
Did you cooperated nonetheless, correct?
Correct.
And again, what was your reason for coming up here?
To have Chris's remains found, have some closure for his kids.
And you tried to help make that happen, correct?
Right, correct.
What did you do?
They drove me over to County Road 639 Cantoga Trail, where we drove, I don't know if we drove a couple times or not, but we drove to Cantoga Trail. I pointed out the area where I believed the remains were, and I guess they started looking.
Now, it sounds like you were a little bit off on where you told them initially. Does that sound a fair assessment of what you've heard here in court last 9 days or so?
Right, that's correct. I was also told I slept for about an hour and a half in the truck. I didn't remember that. The only time I remember getting out of the truck was to use the bathroom, and that was out by the trees, so.
Now, you trying to mislead or try to misdirect, I think is a word that's been bantered around a lot in here. Were you trying to misdirect at that time?
At that time, no.
No. Why do you think you were off on the location?
I think I was a little high still. Yeah.
After this, you went back to the home up here and you did that reenactment. I think you watched the entire video. You remember watching that video here?
Yes, I do.
And I think we might have talked about this already, but first you led him upstairs to the bedroom and said that, no, that's not what happened here, correct?
That's correct. It didn't show it here. I don't remember taking him upstairs, as far as the video, but I do remember hearing that.
Yeah, and why would you tell him what happened up in the bedroom?
I think I was confused. I mean, like I said, I had taken a bunch of pills, so I didn't even remember going upstairs with them.
Now, I asked Inspector Ogden, I think it was yesterday, what if you had a beer during this time at the house? Kind of sort of joked about it, but you did have one. Did you drink a beer?
I did. there was beer in the fridge, and he might have thought I was joking, but I had cracked open the beer and I was drinking it in the dining room. I think he might have said I can't be drinking, or I shouldn't be drinking the beer, but I didn't drink a Miller Lite while I was there.
How would you do that? I mean, it's...
I needed a beer after the whole situation.
Why do you say that?
Just, it's stressful.
So you took some Xanax, you had some beer, anything else?
No.
No, you come back to Indiana and again you continue with your meetings with Detective Ogden. At some point you told him about some shell, or some casings, I shouldn't say shell casings, I guess, but some casings that were supposedly in the basement of the home. Can you tell us about those?
Jason had shot at me twice. I didn't know if we had talked about it yet, but they're about maybe an inch or two from my head on each side. I kept that and put them in. There's concrete floor, concrete walls in the basement. In the corner by the sump pit, there was a small hole that I shoved them down into.
When was this event where he had shot at you?
The same night as Chris.
So he had shot 3 rounds presumably that night at the
Correct.
house. And what gun did he use to take that shot at you?
The 22 caliber rifle.
Did he use the handgun that he had on his person? He used the rifle? And when in the course of events did that occur, they took the shots at you?
It was during that event, the whole cleanup process.
Good. So before he disposed of the body or after the body was disposed of?
Before.
Before. Okay.
After he had shot him, but before the
So,
disposal.
okay, so before the car was disposed of or after the car was disposed of?
Before.
So, in between Chris's shooting and the car being disposed of, somebody took the shots at you.
Correct.
Just to clarify the timeline. They never found any of these casings.
Correct, I even looked with him. I didn't even dig in there, but
Any explanations as to why they didn't find them?
there shouldn't be any reason why they shouldn't be found. I don't think Jason would have ever found them. I don't think he would ever look that close, nor would I think anybody would have been in the house. I think if they were ever found, should have been found on one of the searches. Since they were investigating, so I don't know, what this search consisted of. Just what the paperwork said they recovered.
Now let's talk about, let me skip ahead a little bit. Let's talk about the forceps. After you've been arraigned here and you went on the field trip, one of the deputies pointed out these forceps in the kitchen. You remember that?
Yeah,
And he asked you, hey, are these the forceps you're talking about? Remember that?
correct.
And you said, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
To your knowledge, have they been sitting there the entire time?
To my knowledge, yeah.
So, yeah, it's something that wasn't discovered until...
Until we went there to look. 17.
Now, I will take you to April 7th of last year. You made a phone call to Miss Bridget. Remember that?
Yes.
Why did you make that phone call?
I was trying to help figure out where... I wanted to gain some common ground since I have been disrespectful and unkind and a pain in the butt to deal with. I wanted to help make sense of this. As far as finding his remains and painting a picture of what exactly happened that night.
Why at that point are you willing to cooperate with Miss Bridget?
Because I wanted something to be done, and I know that they had worked hard to figure out what was going on.
They hadn't found Chris at that point, correct?
Correct.
You told her, what was going on in your life around that time, around April 7th? You using drugs, what was going on?
I was having a lot of issues. I was using drugs a lot. I was suicidal. I was beyond depressed.
What were you using at that time?
A little bit of everything. Pills. I'd use heroin, marijuana.
You told Miss Frizzle that you'd been up for 3 days.
Correct.
You got there early, you were up for, what was that?
No, I was probably up for 3 days or more. There were a lot of nights that I didn't really rest my head. I'd stay awake. Just thinking and dwelling about everything that had happened, everything I had seen,
What was keeping you up at night?
just the things I seen when I closed my eyes.
Now, at that time, I believe we had you told Ms. Rizzo that Jason was not supposed to be there on that day for October 14th. You remember telling me that?
Correct.
Is that the truth?
Yes.
Did you know Jason was supposed to be at that house, or was at the house?
I watched him leave.
I think during the April 11th interview was the first time that you told Ms. Rizzo, I think this is our phone call, about the gun being in the pit. Do you remember telling her about that?
About the gun being
In the pit, I'm sorry, Gasping Pit.
That sounds great as far as I did.
Well, why did you withhold that detail until that point?
I think it just goes with the rest of it. I figured it would all come out together. I didn't think it was actually necessary as long as we found the remains.
Can't find the remains yet, correct?
At the date, no.
But why won't you when you're up here on the back end of March, here with Chief Rizzo, you're here with Dr. Auden, you're going through the house, you're going to Pintola Trail, why would you say, hey, why don't you guys check out that pit too while you have a chance?
It wasn't a big concern. To be honest, that trip I wasn't even thinking about that. Just trying to think about, finding the remains. I guess that was a little more important at the time.
Same question, why don't you tell Dr. Auden to look under that cubby hole and get that magazine barrel?
That didn't actually click until a lot later.
Why is that?
I had forgotten about that for a while.
I think I asked this already, I'm going to talk about this again, just so I'm clear. Trinket bag, trophy bag, does it exist?
Does not exist. No.
No such thing.
No such thing.
So,
That was a lie.
it was a lie. So some guy fishing or whatever is not going to hook it and reel something in.
Correct.
Why then did you make that lie up?
Because I wanted to make it seem like I was a monster. Make it easier to believe that I was capable of doing bad things.
Why would you do that? It certainly hasn't helped you, now has it?
No, but at the time it seemed like it would because, like I said, I felt guilty because he wasn't here and I was. And most things didn't matter.
Now let's talk about when you got to Kentucky. When you first interviewed in Kentucky. First of all, why did you go to Kentucky? What was the purpose of
When
leaving?
I left Indiana, I needed a break. I had a hard, after Jason passed, I had a hard time just dealing with things. Up until that point, I really needed to grieve for Chris because with Jason around, there was no grieving. When he passed, I was grieving for both. I was going through a lot of a mess, trying to make sense of everything, figure out what was next. I mean, I didn't want to even go on at that point. I was in a bad place, so I figured I needed a break, needed to get away. Up until that point, I had pushed everybody out of my life, even though I lived, with family and stuff. It felt like it was me against the world, and I was being smothered by all of it.
Why Kentucky? Why that area?
I had family down there, cousins.
In fact, is that who, when the U.S. Marshals came, is that who you were with at the time?
Correct.
Now I'm skipping around a little bit here, but when we're talking about Kentucky, tell me about the conditions in the jail in Kentucky. What was it like for you in there?
I would just go to when they brought me in. When they brought me in, I had a bunch of pills in a cellophane that I had in my sports bra. There's two women that check you in and they do the search on you. They make you strip down and get in the shower. I had all my clothes off but the sports bra, and taking that off, I concealed the cellophane, got into the shower. I took all of the pills. At that point, they had all my clothes. They searched through it. I was able to take all the pills in the shower. They took me to whatever cell, which I don't remember what the first cell looked like. And that's all I remember for a couple days. One of the guards had told me, you know, my toes were curled up. They told me I went to the ER. I don't ever remember going to the ER. There's a lot of it I don't remember after that.
Now, after Detective Ogden and Detective Hawk were there and talked to you, you had an incident at the jail with the shanks. Between their interviews and the time the shanks were made, what were the conditions like for you in that jail?
Detective Ogden told him to put me on a 10-minute, or on a suicide watch, which ended up being 10-minute watches, which would have been fine if they were just looking through the window. Their searches or their 10-minute watches, they actually pop the doors. They come in, they ask you if you're okay. You have to respond to them every 10 minutes. And it would repeat over and over. I was put into what they call turtle suit, which is like a smock with like Velcro that holds it together, no blankets. They had me in, the first one was an observation room, which was lit up 24 hours a day, freezing, no interaction with people at all. I didn't get to leave that cell for the exception of showers, which you actually have to beg for there. It takes about 3 days to get a shower. Pretty crummy circumstances.
So let me get this straight. Every 10 minutes, 6 times an hour, so no one's coming in and checking on you.
Yeah, and if you don't respond, they will continue to call your name until you respond.
How do you sleep with that going on?
You don't. And like I said, with the lights on, with it being cold, plus with how dirty it was, they weren't giving me a tray for food. They put it on a napkin, put it in the dirty sink, so I wasn't eating.
So, giving me books or anything to pass the time?
The only time I was given a book was when they put me in the hole for asking if I was safe. And I had asked them if I was safe because I had heard that somebody came in with MRSA and lice, and they were delousing everybody but me. So they said I shouldn't listen to their conversations and that they were going to put me in the hole.
No, then, doesn't sound like it's very fun, but I don't think it's an excuse to make you shanks.
It's not. When I first heard about this is actually really embarrassing. The only thing I had was glasses and a love story that they had given me. The glasses, I broke the plastic piece off of took off the ear pieces, and took off the plastic end because I could see inside of it that it had like a little sharp metal piece in both, and I used it to slit my wrist in the jail.
You slit your wrist in jail?
Yes.
Obviously, you're very deep. Did you require medical attention at all?
The only medical attention was when they came in and had to do the sternum rubs and the ammonia salts.
Did you made some mention later on that it was your intention to hurt someone else?
I had said that I was going to hurt somebody else. I said I was going to hurt one of the guards. That was never my intention. It was only to hurt myself.
Why did you want to hurt yourself?
I didn't want to be alive anymore.
Why not?
I'd had a rough go the last few years. I'd seen enough. I was tired. I didn't think there was any help for where I was in my life.
Now, there was some suggestion that prior to this you had faked passing out. You ever
I
hear about
heard that when on the TV. I don't actually remember that. I know I was getting really bad headaches. I didn't know if it was the withdrawal from the medications or maybe just no sleep, but they were really bad. I remember them telling me that I had passed out and my chest hurt the next day. And I didn't know why it felt like somebody kicked me in the chest. I guess when you have somebody do a sternum rub, I guess they'd done it a few times to make me come through or whatever. I guess that leaves a little bit of pain.
Were you faking it or?
No.
Passed out?
I don't know if I passed out or blacked out, but I wasn't sure what had happened.
Well, at this point in the jail in Kentucky, that's when you changed your tune, basically, or shortly before this, I should say, that you took a more, or said you had a more active role, we'll call it, I guess, in what happened this weekend. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Is that true?
No.
Well, why would you say something like that?
It goes again, just feeling guilty about him being gone and me still being here.
Did the suicidal thoughts play into that at all as well?
Right.
No, again, I'm skipping around a little bit, kind of just order the witnesses rather chronologically. But now you brought back to Michigan here, and you were arraigned, and Ms. Rizzo wanted to talk to you. Do you remember that?
Yes.
She actually wanted to talk to you, I think probably we're in this courtroom. I've just been arraigned, and she wanted to talk to you then and there. Do you remember that? Did you talk to her?
For a minute, she had asked me, I don't know the exact words, but she had asked me if we could talk, and she said that they had cadaver dogs or human remains dogs, and wanted to go find Chris's remains at that point, or either at that day or another time.
What'd you tell her first?
I was crabby from the ride up here. It was a little bit of a rough ride. I told her either I didn't want to talk now, or I might have said no. I don't know exactly what I said.
It says a rough ride up here. Tell us about that.
They do prisoner transport service. When I did a waiver on the extradition when I was arrested in Kentucky for fleeing. I don't remember the exact charge, but for fleeing. I had to wait till, I want to say the 9th, May 9th. The prisoner transport unit picked me up, took me to Christianston County Jail. They put me in the men's side of the prison in one of the turtle suits. No bedding or anything, lights on 24 hours a day, and I had male inmates watching me 24 hours a day to make sure I didn't do anything. About 5 days of that, wasn't really sleeping there either. Prisoner transport picked me up and 8 other gentlemen that were in the jail, and they put us in this van that's like a big, I don't know, like a full-size van, and they had me in the middle seat, and they have something that they call a cab, so they locked me in there in a little metal box because I was the only female in the ride.
How long were you in that metal box?
37 hours, with the exception of we stopped at 11 different jails along the way, so I got to use the restroom 9 out of those 11 times.
Ms. Rizzo asked you about, you said something about wanting to harm another person to be transported with. Do you remember saying something like that?
I remember saying it, yes.
Did you really want to harm this person?
No, actually the guy sitting next to me was really nice. This whole drive, like I said, being locked in the box, he did unlock me for a little bit, which was nice. He talked to me through the whole time because the box was like 18 inches wide by maybe 36 inches tall. My knees were touching the back of the metal seat. It was very claustrophobic. My first time ever being in jail and then arrested and going through any process. So it was nice to have him there for somebody to talk to and make it easier.
So the next day after the arraignment, at the arraignment, you're told the charges against you and the penalties you're facing, fair to say?
Correct.
And you nonetheless agreed to go on that field trip. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I called, I told one of the guards, I don't remember who it was, I told at this point, to contact Chief Rizzo to let her know that I would want to help with the cadaver dogs to find Chris's remains.
No, that was against, at that time you had spoke to Attorney Lawrence and he told you probably not the best idea to go along with this, correct?
Correct.
You still went?
That had to be done. That's something that had to be done.
And again, eventually, Chris's skull was found, correct?
Correct.
Point out the forceps, correct?
Correct.
Point out where the barrel could be found, correct?
Right, correct.
Point out the magazine tube.
Correct.
Now, some places you took them, you didn't find anything. Wildwood Lake, just for the camera, correct?
Correct.
You didn't find it there, correct?
Correct.
Is it there, to your knowledge? Was it put there, I should say?
It was put there, yes, for sure.
And you don't know what happened to it after that.
No.
How about over to the Real River for the cell phone? Did you take them over there? Do you remember taking them over there?
Yes, correct.
Why did you take him over there?
Because Jason showed me where he threw Chris's cell phone, which is, I didn't know it was called the Poodle River, but yeah.
Okay. When you were taking him over there, did you believe that they would actually find something, or were you just
Yes.
trying to mess with them?
No, I believe they would find it. When we had gotten there, I had been there before, I actually took walks and stuff. The water was actually a lot higher than I had seen it, maybe 1 or 2 times I'd seen it before.
Ms. Grissom noted that during this field trip, you seemed a lot friendlier with her and more accommodating than you'd ever been. Do you characterize your behavior with her the same way she did?
More easygoing, not as irritable maybe.
Why? Why were you more accommodating at this point?
Was this the 17th?
I'm just talking in general after, the field trip was 17th. Yes.
Because we were going to be able to find Chris's remains and be done with this part of it, or this chapter of it.
No, when you say that, you're implying that you had lied about where his remains were previously and they wouldn't be able to find them, and now you told the truth, or?
They weren't able to find him on the 29th and 30th.
You were thinking that perhaps, now that you're here, perhaps you have a chance to find them remains? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Now, we heard that phone call with your mother, and I know this was hard for you and hard for her. And we heard what you said there, and you were talking about a lot of things, and telling her not to blame herself. What was that phone call about?
My poor mother. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever done to my poor mother. That wasn't true. I've never harmed anybody, never wanted anybody to get hurt, never killed anybody, lured anybody. And I was trying to make it to where, in some way, I thought that this would be an easier way to have my parents just, forget about me or push me off to the side, not worry.
Try to make things sound worse than they really were. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Do you regret doing that to your mother?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, we heard, with both of them. We heard about that phone call, we heard about that fictitious letter. When you first got that phone call, what were you thinking?
Well, Walt's had been a friend of mine and Jason's. We talked on the computer quite a bit and the phone. Me and Walt talked a lot more on the phone than Jason and they talked more on Facebook, the little side chats. We had hung out a few times. I thought they were friends, or we were friends, and I figured he knew what I was going through after Jason's passing, and I get a call and here he says something about, he doesn't want to do this, and that there's this letter, and, first off, I don't believe it, but I didn't know why he would even say that to me, just knowing what I was going through, knowing what he was going through, because they were really good friends, and just to say that, why lie to me about it? It hurt.
So you asked him at first not to send a letter. Do you remember hearing that?
Yeah. I remember saying it too.
Why was that your initial reaction?
Because if there was a letter, it would only hurt Jason's parents as far as with Jason's side of things. And like I said, I didn't believe that there was a letter. That if there was this supposed letter, he wouldn't have given Walt a letter like that. I think I was just more hurt by Walt doing that to me.
Nonetheless, you told him, I think twice in that phone call and a phone call afterwards that, go ahead and send that letter. Do you remember doing that?
Yeah, my words, at least the second time, was honor Jason's wishes, and there's a letter, send it.
Now, you met with the FBI in November 2015. Again, not to be a dead horse here, but now you're with the FBI. These guys are pretty good, I'd say. And why not tell them the truth about what happened?
Because at this point, I was, the first visit from the FBI, they picked me up at work, I want to say in July of 2015, the second was November 2015. I was so depressed, I was going with emotions. You know, yeah, I was living with Jason, I had to see him more than I ever did, and things were a lot worse.
No, during that interview, you made some allusion to maybe Chris is still alive, maybe he killed himself. We don't know what happened. Do you remember saying something like that?
I remember seeing the interview. That was just part of the storyline that Jason told me to go with.
And you listen to Jason still. You did what Jason wanted. Now, he also said that if there's any blood from Chris in the vehicle, it would be from him hiking when he cut himself. Was that true that he cut himself while hiking once?
Yeah, one of our trips, we had actually went to Lake Ottawa a few times, and I think that's where they had the blue trail, light blue. For some reason, I remember that. We were walking through this mossy stuff, and he had cut himself. He'd cut himself pretty good, but it wasn't something to go to the doctor or the hospital for. There would have been blood in the truck at that point on the passenger's floor, possibly on the tailgate, but I didn't think it'd be in the truck when they did the search, because I cleaned my truck quite a bit, and I didn't think it was anything, a reasonable amount or anything that would be seen later on.
You've talked about a few locations with these detectives. One's this Deep River location in Indiana. You know, we're talking about, I think, Detective Hawk and Detective Hawk.
Yes.
Led them there, told them that a body can be found there. Do you believe a body is potentially going to be found there? Or could be found there?
No.
No? You just made that up?
Yes.
How about the other location, it's Randolph Road? You remember telling one of the detectives about that?
Yes.
And do you think that's true?
No.
How about this list that you have? We have this list of names. Again, any of that true?
No.
Talk about killing this truck driver in Illinois. Is that true?
No.
So I think we're up to 4 things you lied about right there about that. Why would you tell lies like that?
I wanted to sound like this horrible person.
And again, that didn't seem to be a whole heck of a lot of good, now did it?
No.
And why would you do that?
Desperate measures, I guess.
Now, what's that mean?
I've been depressed and suicidal for a while, or I had been at that point. I figured anything I could say to make myself sound like a monster might have been easier.
Now, we talked about Mr. Niger, who did this extraction of the computer, or reviewed this extraction, it's more accurate saying, and there's some GPS searches about some coordinates. Do you know anything about those coordinates? Who looked them up?
No, when we had looked at them, I know I didn't, but I believe they were like Google Earth. Jason was looking up a lot of places on Google Earth to, I guess, get the overhead picture of them. I don't know what locations or what the reason for the search is.
How about the casting pit? Anything about that?
I know he'd asked people how deep it was. He'd asked the sailors how deep it was. I don't think he was looking up anything in particular that I knew of. I mean, who knows what reason he really did look them up, though.
I'll turn now to Detective Ogden's interviews with you, and I think, again, I can cut things down from my numerous pages here, but we talked about Jessica Eatersole, and you were hesitant to tell Detective Ogden about her.
Yes.
Why is that?
Oh, there's a couple reasons. She had 3 children. She was working. I didn't think that it was necessary to involve her in something that... I didn't think it was necessary to involve her in anything. I didn't want her, children to be exposed, make her uncomfortable. I didn't want somebody showing up at her work and making problems for her. She had some issues besides that. But I also didn't think it mattered, really. I didn't think it was important. I don't know.
What was up with the relationship with her? I mean, tell us briefly about this. Why did you involve her with your relationship with Jason?
Why would I involve her?
Yeah, why would you introduce this third party to your marriage?
Jason wanted a girlfriend.
You had a wife.
He wanted a girlfriend too.
And he wasn't very happy. You had boyfriends.
Right. But he had had girlfriends in the past and he wanted a girlfriend, so we found him a girlfriend.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
No, again, I'm not going to rehash each and every time here, but you've heard the speech by several times with Detective Ogden. Each and every time you heard the witness-suspect speech, you could be a witness or a suspect. He was inviting you, it seemed like, to say, hey, here's what happened. He's inviting you, it sounded like, to say, pick the least culpable of the scenarios. You didn't do that at any point. Immediately, I should say. I shouldn't say at any point, but it took you a while to do that.
Correct.
Why?
Because I didn't really feel comfortable talking about everything that had happened. I mean, it wasn't just something you talk about over lunch or just have straight up a conversation with somebody. I mean, that was probably one of the hardest things to ever talk about with anybody.
What was the turning point for you? We know the date. What at the end of March was the pivot point?
After Jason had been gone 4 to 6 weeks, I know he was dead. I mean, we had the funeral services and stuff, but it took a while to set in that he was actually gone, that I didn't have to lie, that I didn't have to hide any of this, that this didn't have to be a big secret. And this had to come out. I mean, that just to have the peace I was needed.
Now, at some point, you told Detective Ogden that Jason was a great guy, a loving guy, that worshipped the ground he walked on, things like that. Is that true?
In the beginning, yeah. He was true.
But at the end, that doesn't seem to be the case, or that
No, not in the end, but in the beginning, yeah.
So why would you use these complimentary terms to tell how good he is without telling how bad he was as well?
Because he was dead at this point.
Could we have a second of this?
Members of the jury, we're going to take our afternoon recess, and I'd like to get you on your way, so it's not going to be a great deal longer, but we'll take our recess and see how the weather is. Here's Steve.
All right.